everybody. We're going to do an episode of The Depths, this time on Thief and Thorf. Yeah. So Chris and Patrick and I, yes, we're moving on. Chris and Patrick and I have all seen the game at E3. I think we've all played the demo on PS4.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about it, share our thoughts with you. So you guys played it, right?
I like stealth games, so no, yeah, I just picking it up. They kind of throw you into a little mini tutorial showing you, this is how you kind of peek around corners. This is how you, swoop. This is how you pick locks. They do a good tutorial, but then they throw you into the real game, and that's when your objective is to go steal something of value. I can't remember if it was a necklace.
It's a precious gem. A precious gemstone.
Okay.
It's a big old diamond.
Yeah, you got to go steal it because you're a thief. But yeah, you're heading to where the inside of this big castle where you're trying to go find it, and on the way you come across some dudes that you either sneak by or knock out. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool mechanic.
Yeah, and I guess what the game is trying to set up is that there's just one objective. You have to get in and get the diamond, but with this courtyard full of dudes in your way, how are you going to do it? And I think the demo that we both played at E3 and just this week are about the same, right? The courtyard with the diamond. Yeah,
I only saw the one. Chris and I had previously seen a GDC demonstration with the
hands off
House of Blossoms brothel, and it was hands off.
Yeah,
the game looked really good at that point.
So yeah, I think that kind of courtyard scenario introduces a lot of the fundamental elements of the game, and that there's a multi-layered approach to everything. Garrett, who you're controlling, has a tool belt full of cool, gadgets and gizmos that you can dip into. There's no one correct way of doing it, as per any stealth game. It's more about finding your groove, and more often than not, that usually involves slipping into the shadows, moving quickly, using the swoop. I feel like one thing that I like about the game is that they treat combat as kind of a last resort. You're actually almost fucked. Actually,
maybe depending
if you're caught, which I do like a lot, because I look at Splinter Cell Blacklist and I'm like, where's the stealth? He's just running around killing people.
Gears of War.
Yeah, it's even Metal Gear, in Metal Gear.
You're running around with an M4 in Metal Gear.
Yeah, it's like that's a total run and gun game at some points. But Thief, it kind of places the importance back in being undetected.
I think you feel like you fucked up if you get detected.
Definitely.
You can get out of it though.
Yeah.
I don't know, although I did sit for like 2 straight minutes and just parry guys repeatedly. What I realized though is unless you do a perfectly timed parry, which is when you see the enemy's blade will gleam or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it perfectly, you'll still take some damage. You'll just take reduced damage. So essentially the better your timing, the less damage you take. And you can also go into focus mode, which lets you it lets you see things in the environment or slow down time when you're picking locks, or you can highlight a point on a guy's body and whack him.
Some people are really hating that.
Really?
The focus mode?
Although it looks
during
to me
combat
like,
or in general?
In general.
Oh, really?
I get the impression that a lot of people...
The purists?
Let me preface this by saying I'm not a huge follower of the Thief franchise. I apologize. But it seems like a lot of people do have a grievance with this mechanic. It seems like it is kind of like a get out of jail card, in that when you are caught, you're able to slow down time and make a very advantageous situation out of being caught.
Well, you definitely run out of focus, I think, fairly quickly, and you have to find items to replenish it. So it's not something that's recharge. You don't just sit around waiting for your mana meter to regen so you can pull off more shenanigans. You actually do have to kind of you have to
it
engage
is a
the
resource
game
that you have
in the
to
way.
mind.
Yeah. So.
And again, it is also optional, and some people can totally get through the game without using it. I don't think you're ever forced to at one point.
I'm really curious. This is a slight tangent, but this is a Square Enix, sort of game, and with Hitman having a similar sort of focus.
Instinct.
Instinct. It's like a focus thing that makes you super uber for a little bit. It's like in some sense, it's kind of like having mana. It's like I want to do a really cool thing, but it costs this much.
I just imagine the agent
makes me wonder.
a spell.
I mean, it's a little less. I think you're still engaging the game in the same way you would be without the focus. It's not like in Hitman, you're just kind of like, I'll just walk wherever I want. I'll just, it really feels a little bit like you're cheating, I think, in Hitman. And here it's...
Well, the game uses that as a crutch. I will say Thief doesn't seem like it's using this as a crutch. I fully believe you can go through the entire demo without using focus.
And again, it's not
I noticed I wasn't
mandatory.
even using it that much.
Yeah.
I think I was using it to, kind of do Bruce Wayne vision on some occasion, where you can see through everything.
See footsteps.
You see footsteps?
Can
you see like outlines of people too?
You can't see outlines, but you can see noise. So you just see like kind of the pads of footsteps as they move across.
But that was just me kind of like testing it out. I wasn't, doing it way too much, but I know you can use the focus to find like where your next point of traversal is or things like that too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen screenshots and I've seen like interviews where they said like, oh, you need to use this beam, and so the beam will kind of glow if you're in focus mode. It's like, oh, this is where you kind of like
focus
guiding
is a
you.
thing, but you also have you have some different types of arrows, and you can actually pick up bottles, put them in your inventory, or you can toss them, you can break it out and toss them at whatever point. There's a lot of like hopping up on things where people can't see you, and you can jump from bookcase to bookcase maybe if you're in a room like that. And
to be frank, I find it really weird whenever any stealth game introduces some kind of supernatural ability like that, because I feel like if they're gonna go through all the trouble and process of making you learn how to sneak around and devising schemes, then having the ability to either see through walls or find where people are going, or having some kind of preternatural sense of spatial awareness kind of upheaves that idea. It's like, well, you could do this or you could do that and make it easier, and just have to wait until your thing recharges.
Like I mentioned, I think you still engage the game in basically the same way.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Not everyone is playing with like the optimal sound setup where
totally.
You can actually detect directional sound and stuff like that. And it's if you sit in a room for like 30 seconds trying to watch for footsteps, you're gonna waste almost your entire focus meter.
Yeah,
so
that's just one observation
I'm
noting about stealth games.
Yeah, and it's not, if you're standing in the light, it's not going to stop people from being like, oh hey, there's a guy over there, maybe we should club him to death. They'll still do that. But hey, Chris, isn't it kind of odd? We saw the game earlier at GDC. It was a PC demo. And
it was I don't know about you, but it was my first glimpse at what next gen was. They were saying like this is running on next gen specs. Yeah, you keep hitting that.
I hate these fucking things.
But we got to see that the House of Blossoms stage, and I gotta say, like, for me, it was like jaw dropping. It was insane, the level of visual fidelity that was happening. Like, I mean, I've said this before on Invisible Walls, but the cloth was just, when people walked, like, cloth actually swayed in a very, very believable way. People, something that they were stressing was when you get super close to somebody because you're about to pickpocket them, something that you notice in maybe a Skyrim or other sorts of games is like, the textures are really low res, so everything looks like a PlayStation 1 texture when you're that close. But when they got that close in the House of Blossoms demo, like, there were like some really high level, high detailed textures going on there. Like, you can freaking
it looked really good.
You can face plant against things and you can still see, high detail. It was insane. And yeah, when we played the PS4 demo, it seemed, maybe it's just, I mean, we brought it up. Not so much, but
it looked a little different. I think
it looked a little different, but
and different is enough. Yeah, well, it wasn't quite as impressive. I guess would be the polite way to say it. I mean, maybe. I mean, we kind of brought it up with some of the team, and they're like, well, maybe, after seeing all these next gen games, now you're kind of like acclimated to what next gen looks like. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Maybe I want to see that House of Blossoms demo again. Now I'm like, wait, was I just imagining this now? Because I don't think I was.
That's funny because this is pre-PS4 announcement, right? When you guys checked it out.
Yes.
So I get the feeling that if anything, it might have looked better later on, because at first devs thought they were working with only 4 gigs of
well, we could have, I think we were seeing the PC version, I guess, right? And it's obviously, what we saw is not final, so we're not here to pass judgment, but it made me think, the game doesn't look quite as good. I actually had a lot of fun playing through the demo though. I pulled off some stealths, I picked some pockets, I opened some. There are optional areas, there might be a treasure chest, or there's you said there was a challenge to pickpocket the main guard.
Yeah,
the captain.
Yeah.
Who's
so like,
kind of standing in a
there's like an
open
open courtyard, and there's a ton of soldiers patrolling the area, and then in the dead center of it all is like a captain kind of like commanding everybody. As a side objective, it kind of just pops up and it says side objective. You can pickpocket that guard, and even though we didn't know what the reward was offhand. I just wanted to challenge myself and do it. I was like, okay, I want to know what he does. What do I get for doing these side objectives? And what I ended up getting after I pickpocketed him was a map that showed me where a secondary entrance to the building that you needed to get inside was. And inside, you know, when I opened the door with that secondary entrance, there was some treasure and stuff in there too. So, you know, they kind of definitely, if they pose a challenge to you, you're better off always trying to do it if you feel that you're up to the task. Something I will say though during while I was stealthing around and everything was, you know, sticking to the shadows is key, and swooping around and trying to stay into shadows is also really, really fun. I think the Thief guys have nailed that. But you know, when it comes to a stealth game in AI, it's always, you know, that's the make or break when it comes to a stealth game. And for me, this happened to me in my PlayStation.
Why are you laughing?
I think I know.
Did you think of something
Oh,
funny?
really? Well, for me, what happened was, I see, you know, in a stealth game, you see all the people that are patrolling, and you can either, you know, I want to either take them all out or I just want to sneak by. And if you want to sneak by, it always comes down to I need to memorize or at least kind of get a gist of their patrol paths and find the gap where I should just kind of sneak on by.
Sure.
And what I ended up doing was I was like, you know, this is taking too long. Like I don't want to spend the next 30 seconds or minute seeing where the gap is where I can just walk by. So what I did was I picked up a bottle and I threw it really, really far just to hopefully that, you know, just so that they could look at the bottle and I could easily sneak by. And as soon as I threw the bottle and it crashed, they were just super aggro. They're like, we're gonna get you. I was like, whoa, what happened? I was like, you don't think that could have been a cat? Or it was a bottle way over there. And it was crazy because when yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna find you and kill you. I was like, they were not aggro at all.
My name, like, Garrett, I you know you're here.
But I would say, yeah, the guards
I was like, wait, what happened?
can go aggro on short notice.
And
for sure.
the even crazier part was where the place that the bottle landed was where they didn't even go. They just started honing in on me. I was like,
They're
how
too
did
smart
this
for you,
happen? So
I would say it's a little touchy. The AI seems to.
But it's super early.
flick
We
their
don't know,
active
you know,
state.
that stuff can be ironed out. But man, that just stuck with me, you know.
Better than Hitman, bro.
Hitman's.
Hitman was bad. Like, you would be behind cover, you'd throw the brick, and then they would run to the brick and be like, "What?" You know, it's like,
Fetch, boy,
at least
fetch.
it makes sense that they're kind of going in the direction that the bottle was thrown.
I would say, yeah, they do seem a little touchy. What I did actually for the first part of the demo in the courtyard is there was a cage with dogs, and I went over there and I was like, "Hey, dogs!" They started barking like crazy, so everyone rushed over there, and then I kind of went around the side, and no one actually saw me, but. Once the dogs started barking, they weren't like, oh, what are the dogs on about? They're just like, okay, what the fuck? Someone's here. Let's fucking slit his throat, man. Fucking hate this guy. What? There's a thief in the shadows? At the same time, I will say, when you are in the shadows, you seem to be extremely well hidden.
Oh,
you can be right up next to a guy.
That's
like,
kind of the
hey,
other
buddy,
thing.
and if
Very
you're,
black and white.
You have a gem that shows you, you know, if it's white, you're in light. If it's gray, you're not quite. And then, you know, a darkened gem is you're pretty much safe.
Yeah.
And it
When-
seems like
when you're in
have
pitch
a
black, you're
lot-
invisible.
Yeah. Sometimes I was sure a guy would detect me, and he would just be like, you know, inches away from me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was standing on a little elevated thing, and the guy went up the stairs, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, hello, and so he got me. So yeah, the AI seems a little bit. I think it's definitely a game where you'll have to learn how this AI works.
Almost
you
by
know?
like trial and error.
And maybe
right?
this will
This
change.
will
Yeah, you can't
activate
approach it just like any
their
other
aggro and
any
some
other
this
stealth
won't.
game.
You know, you got to test the limits of the AI to know what's within your stealth bounds, right?
But that said, I would hope that they maybe tweak it a little bit. It seemed a little bit touchy. It seemed a little bit startling, and that they would behave in ways you wouldn't expect. So.
Right. I think besides the AI, one other kind of grievance that people have brought up were the controls. I think, you know, from my personal experience at least, I feel like it was a little difficult to get into, mainly just because, not because they're necessarily poorly designed, but there's certainly a lot to learn at first, especially if you didn't have the tutorial kind of seeing you through. It did take me a while to get my sea legs, so to speak, just in terms of moving easily and smoothly, you know, from cover, going over walls, like sneaking up behind someone. But I feel like after I did spend some time with it, it felt pretty good. The swooping motion that they keep talking about in interviews and keep doing in demos feels cool. Like, you feel like you're in a rhythm. You're like swimming, you know, through the shadows, and, you know, trying to navigate through cover. Like, it feels really smooth. And one thing I like about just the Thief in general, kind of in relation to movement around environments, is that I feel like they pay very good attention to kind of the vertical aspects of each environment too, where it's not just a flat sort of level like, you know, Metal Gear 1. You know, there's actually a benefit to exploring alternate paths, you know, going up, perching atop a pedestal, and, you know, leaping towards a wall, you know, hanging behind walls. It feels like you have a lot more up your sleeve in terms of approach, and I think they pulled that part off pretty well.
Something we should probably mention is when you do these sort of top-down attacks, or if you do, you know, a little prompt where you can club a guy and he's completely unawares of you, it really does kind of like that Deus Ex-y sort of like, here's what you get to watch, what you get to what you just did. Yeah. So you know, is that a Square thing?
I mean, there's a little bit of third person.
There's a little bit of that.
Some of the same team.
For those, for those who
totally
have seen any screenshots or read any interviews of that, like, that is definitely there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I feel like I could do without it too. I always get scared whenever I go in for the crazy kill, and then, you know, I'm worried that someone is just gonna walk in and see me, you know, showing off, like killing off the guard. But so far so good. I think it was okay. It wasn't too elaborate, you know, no predator kill trains. Inside joke.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing I would mention is in terms of the design of the levels, this, you know, House of Blossoms looked like a pretty interesting demo, and this did too. There's definitely room to go different places. At the same time, I think there is kind of like an obvious entry point, and there are spots you'll have to get past where you just have to figure a way around the guards. You know, you can't always just hop up on the wall and totally skirt around the edge. So they definitely put you through these choke points, or there are doors that you'll need to get through, so you'll have to either, you know, find a way to distract the guards. Maybe there's a second way to get in, maybe not. But yeah, there were certainly points where it's like, okay, I just have to look around and see what's here and figure out a way to get past these guys. So it seemed, you know, these fucking mics, I really do hate them. My foot gets wrapped up in the cord. If I were thieving right now, the guards would just be on me, clubbing me to death.
Who bumped that mic?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, you know, you have the water arrows, there's fire arrows, which I didn't really find anything good to set on fire.
Yeah, I mainly stuck to extinguishing torches.
Yeah. Who put that out? Who did that?
Speaking to lights, yeah, you do have the water arrows that put out torches, but there are also these, it's like a weird steampunky kind of thing. Like, there are definitely like lights that you can't put out because they look like light bulbs, and like there's actual switches like that seem like, you know, normal light switches that aren't, you know, created by a fire. So I mean, those are definitely ones you got to keep your eye out to. That when I first came across them, I was like, this is interesting. You know, I'm used to just very, very, you know, old school, you know, either shoot the light bulb or put out the torch, but these were, you know, kind of like the little impenetrable.
Yeah, I guess you can't just make it totally dark and then be like, hey.
Yeah, you can't just like,
I'm thief. I'm totally
have your
hidden.
way through an entire like courtyard or whatever. But
so overall, you know, I think it still looks pretty promising. There are a few things that make me a little bit concerned. You know, I can't just expect the game to be completely amazing. You know, there are definitely things that they need to address, things that they need to look at. I hope the game continues to evolve, but I've also seen a lot of really cool stuff. I would like to play more of the game. They have some little puzzles in it. You know, they have like puzzle elements, some action elements. Usually after you grab the object, you have to do some kind of escape, which I think they try to fit a little more action in there so it's not completely methodical play. So yeah, a lot of interesting ideas. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I haven't played the other games, but this was a kind of cool introduction for me into that style of gameplay. I love stealth games, even more so when they really do promote the idea of confrontation being a last resort, and I did feel that, you know, every time I did get caught. I feel like I did legit make a mistake, and it wasn't like, oh, guess I'm gotta do beast mode now and, like, you know, kill everyone like in Metal Gear. It's interesting and different than what I'm used to playing, and I would certainly like to play more.
Chris, any final thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I like. I mean,
it's pretty cool. I guess
all the points, you know, that I brought up during this discussion. It's like, you know, while I have some concerns for AI, like, it's, you know, I'm sure that stuff will get ironed out when it comes out. I'm really hopeful, at least very hopeful, and, you know, when the game does release, I'll optimistically approach it and you know, just kind of hope for the best. But, you know, I just really want to play it. You know, from the demo, I definitely want to play more. I'm not I'm not turned off to the experience or anything like that. Nothing was game breaking. It was just little hitches here and there. But no, overall a very solid game that I'd like to just play more of, and I personally look forward to.
It's simple. It's a way of life.